Hi, I'm here with Clint Unseth, who is our new board member with CanBIM. He joined us back in February?
January, I believe.
January. And Clint has a extensive history working in the industry. You've been working 30, 40 years now in various roles, IBM, Stuart Olson most recently. You're an entrepreneur. You started a couple of different companies focused on Internet of Things and utilizing data for smart connected real estate. And you've got a deep passion for sustainability and examining embodied carbon and other really important issues that we need to pay attention to as builders and architects and designers and just as citizens. So
I started as an electrician, though.
So you actually have an electrical ticket. You can wire stuff.
Yes, I haven't wired stuff for some time, but I was an industrial electrician in the upstream oil and gas industry of Western Canada. That's where I started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then that's where I started to learn about the idea of converged infrastructure and integrated systems, and that's where it started.
Excellent.
Yeah. Anyhow.
So I guess what we want to do today is sort of introduce you as a board member to our membership and also our broader audience, and kind of get a sense of your history in the industry and also what you're bringing to CanBIM and where I want to have a loose conversation about the direction of CanBIM, our brand, our strategy, and that's kind of the gamut.
Where we see the industry going in, looking into our future, and how might we help influence the future.
And we've had a few really great conversations, and I think one of the things that we always hone in on is, what is the industry's core challenge? And I think it's evolving, it changes, but certainly right now, I think a lot of executives are thinking about COVID. That's obviously top of mind. How do we get back to work? How is that going to change our business practices? How is it going to change design? But more than that, what do you think the impact of technology is? How do you think companies are working through digital transformation? What do you think is the core challenge right now that executives are facing in our industry?
Productivity. That's the heart of the challenge. And we can measure productivity in people. We can measure productivity in capital. We can measure productivity in assets. In certain processes, it's productivity, in my view. In a word, that's the core challenge. I don't dismiss COVID. Of course, this is colossal on a global scale, without saying. But more fundamentally at the core, in my opinion, it's productivity. Declining productivity, to be more specific.
What do you think is influencing that? Is the projects? Is it the skill level, or keeping current skills with the labor force? Is it lack of coordination across documentation? Is it contract types? And is it all of the above, or is there a single thing that you can put your finger on?
Culture. But I think you could go into a number of areas on the root cause analysis. But I think culturally, the industry, there's so many changes, profound changes. If you look at other leading industries in the world, how they've invested, anticipating, almost shaping their future to some degree, and how other industries have invested. If you look at construction, we're probably, I think today, even in this period of COVID, I think construction would represent 7 to 8% of our nation's GDP. So it's a large industry, but it's an industry by large that hasn't invested in R&D. Even training, I would suggest, is negligible if you compare it to other industries. So I think at a cultural level, that has a profound impact on many aspects. And you could go into process issues around the root cause of lack of productivity or declining productivity. For example, our industry, in my view, if you compare to Asia, just as an example, the lack of pre-planning that we have in Canada, I still am astounded by it. If you go into the procurement process, again, just the opportunity for improved productivity. I could go on with the topic. I don't know how much time we have, but this is an area I study extensively, actually.
I think it's definitely a common thread across everything we do. at CanBIM, we've focused for most of our existence around pushing the envelope and the use of technology across projects and affecting productivity.
Right.
And it's definitely an area that we want to continue to focus on.
Yes, yes, for sure. I think for CanBIM, for me, I just jump on this. By the way, I'm just delighted to be part of CanBIM, to join the board. I really, I'm just really pleased for the opportunity to contribute with you and the team, the organization, and serve our industry. I say that really with gratitude. I think of where digital capabilities can help our industry, and I think Canadian BIM organization, our membership, we have a profound opportunity to transform our industry. You mentioned digital transformation as part of the opening question. And I think our organization is so well positioned to serve our industry, to help as a catalyst to enhance productivity through digital tools, techniques, processes. And I really, for me to be part of this, I see this as a profound opportunity, as a catalyst for that change,
So would you say that, is that the number one strategic opportunity for Canada to focus on that, the change management challenge of moving the industry forward, or what do you think the most strategic opportunity is?
Well, I think when we look at the digital tools, I look at our membership today, and building on the good base that CanBIM has developed over the years. I think that not data management, if I may call that information management for certain, I think that's a very strategic short and long-term opportunity. And we can elaborate further on what does that really mean to us, information management. But to your point, Thomas, I think if we think about culture, yes, there's a culture of change. And I think as industry leaders and the investors and the owners that we serve, I think we all have to ask ourselves, how will we create this culture of innovation? And how are we going to address the culture of change? Mm-hmm. And these are, I think, for many organizations through the supply chain, but equally on the ownership level, I think these are really important questions that I'm not so clear that we're asking at a consistent level.
Right.
So the change management, yes, and information management, I think, are absolutely strategic imperatives for our industry, but for CanBIM as an opportunity to lead by example and be a catalyst for this, if we want to address productivity.
Yeah. And we really have to, as an industry, and I guess as an organization, we have to focus on our massive transformative purpose, right?
Yeah.
That I know you think about personally, and I know that you're bringing that kind of thinking to CanBIM. But what do you think is that single thing that we can really focus on as an organization, as a membership body, that will really drive an improvement that will affect productivity, but also address the evolving needs of the industry around technology, but also the climate and sustainability requirements?
Purpose is such a big, the first time I heard the word purpose in the context of business, I thought it seemed flowery. And this was back in the 90s, I think it was way back. And then Dr. John Izzo, he's got a book recently, The Purpose Revolution, but he's been on this for probably 30 years. And I've met John on a few occasions. And in fact, he's been looking at real estate industry at the pension fund level with CEOs and so forth. And across other industries. And he really John got me thinking about this more and more, and I started studying. And so, it's taken me some time as I mature, I suppose, in terms of how do I define my purpose. But if I think of my own massive transformative purpose, MTP is a term used by Salim Ismail and his Open Exponential organization, something I'm part of and an advocate for exponential growth. But my MTP, or massive transformative purpose, I think I'm getting it down to it's transforming waste into liquid assets. And when I look at waste, there's materials, like in our industry, if people are aware of this, I don't know, but we consume 50% of Mother Earth's natural materials, like minerals, ores. woods, aggregates, right? It's profound. And yet 30% of our landfill in Canada is as a result of construction and demolition of our buildings, our infrastructure. So if ever an opportunity to eliminate waste and create that circular economy, how do we reuse our materials and get to zero waste to reduce costs? So I think of productivity in materials, which then in part I think impacts people productivity. And if you look into the digital world and where CanBIM is at, that intersection of people and digital technologies and process, if you think of BIM, think of Revit, data files. Think of these data objects in design and construction. Then where does it go? The old adage, it sits on the dusty shelf. Well, why aren't we using that data object, whether that becomes construction material type of data objects, it could be performance related, it could be warranty related. There's all sorts of insight in that data object that if we used it through an entire life cycle, that data object becomes an asset. And today it's viewed in our industry as a cost center. So back to the purpose, for me, and as I look, as we as a team and the board crystallize the massive purpose for CanBIM, my instinct looks to transforming waste into a liquid asset. And then that's about velocity. In financial terms, we're now talking about return on assets. That drives productivity. That is absolutely about velocity. And so I guess in short, that's what I see.
Yeah,
transforming waste into a liquid asset.
It's about data. It's about design. It's about design for the use case of the building itself and the functionality that's required of that.
Right.
But it's also about designing the building so it can be disassembled and reused, which then requires you to track all those individual building components as objects and assets unto themselves that can be repurposed later. Right. So
totally. And when you look at that, what I'm learning, something I'm really hoping to bring to industry, to North American industry with CanBIM, buildings as a material bank. And if you look at today, as I've learned, our pension funds and REITs, but pension funds are behind such a major majority. I don't know the exact number, but a massive share of large construction in this nation and frankly, North America. And I believe that they build in cost of capital on the finance dealing, right? They build in cost of capital because they see that these materials are in fact liabilities. It's going to end up in the landfill. That's obvious. Is it in 10 years? Is it 50 years? But it does. Well, what if we can prove, and it has been proven, what if we can prove as a consistent methodology that we can reuse that waste, that it becomes that liquid asset? We've just proven an opportunity to reduce cost of capital. That's a very, very powerful value proposition in this industry. And I think CanBIM can be a catalyst in helping bring that to the forefront, right?
Yeah.
So in your point about modular materials and disassembly, it's perfect.
There's a huge economic opportunity there, but it will take the whole industry to start thinking differently about how we design, procure, and assemble, and then manage over the life cycle of these assets.
Well, we touched on culture. That nails it right there, and how the industry has to change, right? And think about pre-planning. Wow, you don't talk pre-planning to achieve what you just touched on, Thomas. This is a whole new way, right?
Rethink, yeah, definitely.
Totally, I love it.
So, what do you? I mean, as a new board member, what are your? I mean, what's driving this? I mean, you're obviously a very busy person. There's lots of places where you could put your time. What are your hopes and ambitions for your participation on the board?
I've loved the construction industry. I love to build things. I came from a farm family. My grandfathers were also not just farmers. They built things. They were tradesmen. My father was also electrician. So, and I just have always loved building things. And as an industry, it's been very good to me. You know, even when I went to IBM, it was on this topic of creating this vision around what we would call smart buildings, right? And so that intersection of technology and this industry of building things and sustainability. So for me to serve and give back to something and help make a difference. But when I look at these challenges, I'm not going to complain about it. I embrace it as an opportunity. So for me, as an opportunity to serve as a volunteer with CanBIM, I'm grateful for the opportunity. And I think that CanBIM truly, I really believe this, when I look at where the whole digital capabilities are going, and lots of people talk about digital transformation. I really see that CanBIM has an opportunity to serve as a catalyst for this positive change and help our industry get to where it needs to go. And if we as CanBIM can work with our members and their organization at the executive, at the ownership level, and if we can start to articulate together what are those performance metrics, the criteria for success that we as an industry need to look at, like productivity of capital or people. That might mean schedule on jobs. Can we get to zero waste? What does that mean for embodied carbon?
Yeah.
If we can get these metrics, and if over the next 2 years, 5 years, even 10 years, and say we're going to reduce waste by 95%, we're going to improve productivity by 30 or 40 or 50%, right? If we can help reduce cost of capital by half a basis point, whatever those metrics should be, if CanBIM can help in that way, and if in some small part I can help in that capacity, then I feel that I'm serving our industry, and CanBIM is a great platform for our industry to be a catalyst of change for material results.
Yeah, and
I think these little bugs around me. I'm sitting by the pool, but anyhow, sorry to carry on.
That's all right. So yeah, and I think you touched on the point, but key to setting goals and key to knowing whether or not we're on the right path is measuring. And you brought up a few different ways on key metrics that we need to look at from a performance standpoint. Right. But how do you as we set these goals and how we set about to instigate change across the industry, how do you think we should be trying to measure that?
Well, I think to measure it, to drive change, you need to establish common language, and to bring common language as an industry, we need to have the right people around the table. And when I say the right people, I mean a collaborative ecosystem. And I think many in our industry, like when I didn't call myself innovation. We were just, I was out to raise money, and we created the Center for Building Performance, and boom, boom, all of a sudden, I'm part of this bigger company. And I would say that within the company, these big companies that are traditional, particularly with construction, it's one of the oldest industries in the world, that internal system indirectly, inadvertently started to fight off the innovation, if you would. The internal immunity, as Salim calls it, was fighting us off. So we had to learn how to navigate and lead change from the top down and bottom up. And so I think as we get into these metrics, we've got to bring diverse stakeholders together. And I think for CanBIM to grow this collaborative ecosystem, if we're that platform, I think as an industry, at a software, as a technology level, we talk about open source. We need ecosystems. I think for CanBIM, that's not only an opportunity, but responsibility. And so I think in part it's that, but I think also as we bring owners, whether that's at a pension fund or senior executives in the real estate portfolio, but the academia. If I look into the University of Calgary, for example, and Joshua Tarrant and Dr. John Brown, what they're doing with architecture and construction planning, or Dr. John Robinson now at University of Toronto when he led that vision at UBC on the SIRS building, right? There's these kinds of thought leaders, in my opinion. If we can have them at the table with us, or people at George Brown College or at Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, they're investing in innovation for our industry in the topic of productivity. And so you bring this diverse stakeholder group together in collaborative ecosystem, and we establish common language, and together we establish those metrics you ask about so that we're aligned. And I think that's a good starting point. And I think CanBIM is so well positioned to serve as that neutral platform, again, becoming that catalyst for change. I think it's an awesome opportunity.
Well, I think it's great, Clint, and I know we're super excited to have you participating now at the board level. You've always been a very, very big supporter whenever we do events out in Vancouver, and you've really brought some great insights and some interesting ideas to the table, and definitely looking forward to working with you over the next few years to help redefine and refine our strategy for CanBIM. So just want to wrap up here, but thank you very much for your time, and obviously enjoy the weather there in Vancouver. It looks wonderful. It's starting to rain here in Ontario, but we'll talk soon. Thank you very much.
And I want to thank you. I'm delighted for the opportunity to contribute. I'm having fun with you and the team. And but you're welcome. But thank you. I'm thrilled
Okay.
for this time to serve.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.